In this video we will look at cutting, hauling and laying process. Cutting involves excavating the soil from cut areas down to the required level of the road formation. The material is then hauled to a fill area where it is laid ready for compaction. Alternatively, it may be a cut to waste operation, in which case the cut material is just taken away off-site. However, let's look at the cut to fill. These three processes in a cut to fill operation, the cutting, the hauling and the laying, can be done with different types of plant. One option is to have an excavator excavate the material and load it onto trucks, which haul it to the fill area. Usually the trucks will just dump the soil in a pile. A bulldozer is then usually used to push the fill out into a thin layer ready for compaction or drying. A bulldozer alone can also be used for short hauls. That is when the soil only needs to be moved 100 meters or so. With these short distances, the bulldozer can just push the soil from the cut area to the fill area. However, bulldozers are very slow and can only push a few cubic meters of soil at a time, whereas trucks are faster and can carry 10 to 25 cubic meters or even more. So after 100 meters or so, it's not really all that efficient using just a bulldozer. Alternatively, you can use a scraper. This machine scrapes up the soil, transports it to the fill area, and then spreads it out into a layer ready for compaction. So a scraper cuts, haws and lays the soil with just one machine, which is a very efficient way of moving soil. However, scrapers are expensive and are only really justified when there is a lot of soil to be moved. That is tens of thousands of cubic meters and up. Sections 9 and 10 of TNZF1 set out the requirements for cutting, hauling and laying work. You should read these sections as they contain some important requirements for the earthworks construction. Some of the most important points are: you need to use the strongest material for the subgrade. That is the material that is going to be directly underneath the road and which is going to carry most of its loads. Undercut cut areas so that the subgrade surface is a continuous layer of soil. Undercutting involves cutting below the designed formation level. In other words, soil is removed and then replaced with other soil. We'll look at that more in a minute. Fill batters need to be properly compacted. Fill batters are slopes on a fill embankment. You may recall from the earthworks introduction topic that we usually need to overbuild fills to allow them to us to compact the soil right up to the edge. That will be the surface of the batter. Then we trim back to the design batter. You need to dump and borrow areas need to be agreed by the engineer. The engineer is the client's technical representative, and he or she needs to make sure that these areas are located so as to fit in with the final use of the area. Benching is to be provided for slopes over 1 vertical to 3 horizontal. We looked at benching in the earthworks introduction topic. Benching involves cutting benches into the side of the slope to allow the fill structure to key into the existing soil. This section of the specification also tells us how to design benches. Another condition is that the engineer determines what material is to be used in the subgrade. This allows the engineer to select the strongest soil to better resist the road loadings. Lastly, the fill is to be laid in even layers of no more than 200 millimeters thick to ensure full compaction over the full depth of the layer. As we'll look at later, subgrade, the top part of the soil, is laid in even thinner layers. This photo shows moxies being loaded by an excavator. One truck is being loaded while another waits. Note that the waiting truck is out of the way of the truck being loaded, but it will be able to move quickly into the loading area when it is its turn to be loaded. This means it takes less time to load trucks, and so you are moving more soil each hour. Making sure you are maximizing productivity is an important part of earthworks planning. Another part of the planning is to make sure that you have enough moxies or trucks to keep the excavator working all the time. So matching the plant is another important part of earthworks planning. This photo shows a truck dumping a load of soil at a fill area. You can see the bulldozer then pushes the soil into a shallow, even surface ready for either drying, wetting or compaction. The excavator in the foreground is shaping the slopes of the fill area.